night on the topic of purpose. And before we get into tonight's discussion, I would like to begin with prayer. Father, we thank you for this wonderful church and for this opportunity to meet in this fashion week after week. Tonight, Lord, as we get deeper into the topic of purpose, help us to realize the purpose for our existence. Help us to operate with full confidence in you that we will live victorious, purpose driven lives. Amen. A pleasant night again, everybody. Just reaching out to you all. Anybody can tell us how you are? How was your day? Did you have a good day? Would anybody like to tell us, did everybody have a good day?
Yes, I'm still alive and all is well.
Awesome, great, alive and all is well. Anybody else?
I just want to say that today we seniors had the first meeting of our Gold Club at the church. And it will
Awesome.
be good for everybody who is either senior or on the way to being senior to join
Yes.
us. We meet on fourth Wednesdays, say starting at 12 or a little after 12, depending on when we finish our Bible study.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
Nice
Sounds
opportunity to promote it.
sure. It sounds very interesting, and I hope that more persons will come out and be a part of this wonderful thing that is being started. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else had a good day?
I had a good day.
Okay, awesome. Happy to know that. All right, so we're going to be getting into the meat of the matter, and we're going to be looking at the purpose-driven life. And I am just going to start my presentation. All right, so we're going to be looking at this little game I want us to get into and play before we get into anything serious. This is week 3, and this is session 6. So we're all looking at the fact that we are one big family. And one of the things that can help to bind us as families is when we have things in common with other persons. And Romans 14, verse 19 says, let us concentrate on the things which make for harmony and on the things that would basically be promoting fellowship within the church. And so, from those of us who are here, we're going to try to find out things that we have in common with each other. So, for example, we can look at our top 2 or 3 hobbies. One person can tell us their favorite hobbies, maybe 2 or 3 favorite hobbies. And then if other persons have those hobbies, they can share with us that they have those hobbies so that we can see who has things in common with other persons. All right. So would anybody like to tell us your top 2 or 3 hobbies, and then we can see if other persons have those hobbies and persons can share what their hobbies are? Who wants to go first?
Mhm.
Yes, Tamika Gordon, you may go ahead.
Okay. Um, let's say I like to travel whether locally or overseas, and I
Yes.
love to try new foods.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. Thanks for sharing. Traveling, trying new foods. Anybody likes any of those two?
I love traveling, but nowadays traveling makes many of us very anxious. What's going to meet
Okay.
us at the border?
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So that's you have that in common, traveling. All right. Anybody else like, well, I like traveling. Anybody else likes any of those two? Okay, Sister Koi, you had traveling. Did you have anything else that was a favorite?
Yes, incidentally, traveling was not on my top two or
Oh,
three.
oh,
It's
okay,
one of
okay,
my loves, but mm-mm. So
okay.
I guess after all of that, Sister Tamika, I'm boring because hmm,
So
I
did
I love playing Scrabble.
okay,
I love reading and
okay,
I love learning a foreign language online.
okay, awesome. All right. So does anybody have any of those preferences? Playing Scrabble, reading, learning a foreign language?
I love reading,
Awesome.
and I don't mind that drive out onto the country rural areas.
Yes, okay. All right. So you have something in common with both the ladies. All right. And we could go on and on like this, but this is just demonstrating that people have things in common. And when you have things in common, it can cause you to be united. And further in this presentation, we look at some of the things that Christians all have in common and bring about the pointer that what we have in common is what is powerful, and therefore we should not allow things to separate us. So, as a group, sometimes you can do things that can unify you as a group. So, you can do traveling, you can play Scrabble, you can have learning of foreign languages, different things, trying new foods, doing things that everybody can appreciate so that the bond can be closer. This week, we are at week 3, purpose number 2. You were formed for God's family. And tonight, we are on the second section of this topic. So in day 19, we look at cultivating community. Day 20, restoring broken fellowship. And day 21, protecting your church. Cultivating community is our first topic. So, the first thing we look at in cultivating community is the fact that we should lovingly speak the truth. So, there are things that might be uncomfortable to say, but sometimes it is not what you say, it is how you say it. And so, if somebody is falling away from the faith, if somebody is committing a sin, we can lovingly confront that person. We can lovingly confront them by ensuring that we have the right voice tone. We are not angry when we are approaching them. We ensure the where. Where do we speak to them about this situation? So we speak to them privately. We do not embarrass them in the presence of others. Our voice tone must be calm. We must be in control of our emotions, remembering that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Are there any other pointers on how we can lovingly confront persons who are sinning? Okay. We may ask questions. For example, we may ask, what is the difficulty that you have with? So trying to get an idea of some of the challenges they have, which causes them to commit these sins. We can also provide ideas as to how they can deal with these sins. Many fellowships remain silent because of fear of conflict. So we might notice that there are issues and we remain silent out of fear. However, Solomon said an honest answer is a sign of true friendship. So true friendship involves honesty, even if it is something that is difficult to hear. Cultivating community takes humility. So self importance, smugness, and stubborn pride destroy fellowship. So we have to realize when our pride is getting in the way, as it can destroy our fellowship. Pride prevents us from growing, healing, and helping others to grow. Here's a very important point at the bottom of the screen. It says we can practice humility by being patient with others' weaknesses and being open to correction. So we know that nobody is perfect. So when we observe weaknesses in persons, we should be patient with them. And we also have weaknesses. And therefore, we should be open to correction. We should be open to somebody correcting us. We should accept the correction with grace. We can thank persons for correcting us. We can look into ourselves. We can try to identify if there are areas in which we should improve. Or we can think about ways that we can improve in those areas, more importantly. All right. So is there anybody who wants to make a comment about being open to correction? Any additional ideas that you have in terms of how to be open to correction? All right, so we shouldn't be too self-centered as it relates to the correction. We should not be too embarrassed, even if it might be difficult for us. But we can look on it as an opportunity to grow because we are all in the growth process. As long as we're alive, we are growing. Cultivating community takes courtesy. Now, Rick Warren says some people are difficult. They have special emotional needs, insecurities, and poor social skills. So these things, sometimes people act up, but they're acting up out of insecurity. Some people have poor social skills, so they are rude. They might speak loudly, be overly aggressive. Those are poor social skills. Some may have emotional needs and need to have more attention, etc. And so they are difficult to handle. He terms these people as EGR people, extra grace required. So we shouldn't run out of grace. We are expected to have extra grace required for persons who we find difficult to deal with. And then something we should remember as we cultivate community is that community is not about compatibility. So it means, therefore, that our fellowship doesn't have to only be including persons that are like us, persons that we find to be compatible. It can be anybody because it's about fellowship. The basis of our fellowship is our relationship with God, and we are family. Cultivating community also takes confidentiality. So we shouldn't gossip persons. Sometimes in the church, we are in a position where we become aware of certain personal details about persons' lives, but we shouldn't put it out there in the open. So even for example, if there is a prayer request, I'd say prayer meeting, we shouldn't share that information with somebody else just for the intention of gossiping, right? Uh, we understand that love is when we realize that Christ gave his life for us. And that means that we must give our lives for other believers. All right, so we have some discussion questions now. Number one, how can I cultivate today the characteristics of real community in my small group and my church? What are the barriers that keep us from loving and caring for others? What would make it easier for you to be able to share your needs, your fears, your hopes with others? What are the most common excuses people give for not joining a church? And how could you answer them? So, we're going to share these ideas with each other. I am going to give you a moment to look at the questions, think about possible ideas or answers to each questions, and then we're going to share our ideas. Okay, so we're going to be looking at uh, the questions now. Number one, how can I help to cultivate the characteristics of real community in my small group and my church? Does anybody have any possible approaches to this question?
I think one is to be ready to listen.
Yes,
Sometimes we're in such a hurry, we don't spend time when people would just like to have a minute or two
yes.
conversation.
Okay,
Also, being humble in our approach to everyone. We should never seek to be lording it over anyone.
yes, yes. All right, that's helpful. Thank you so much, Sister Coy. Anybody else? Question one, how can I help today to cultivate the characteristics of real community in my small group and my church?
Um, I think we should not be judgmental.
Yes,
We should seek to be accepting.
yes,
As persons come, accept them for who they are, and don't try to go on to find out anything more, and allow a warmth to be shared and developed in the
yes,
community. So
yes.
trust will be there.
Trust, yes. All right, great pointers. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, also empathy, putting yourself in the somebody else's shoes, those help. Question number two, what are the barriers that keep us from loving and caring for other believers? What are the barriers that keep us from loving and caring for other believers? Okay, so I believe that one of the key barriers is self-centeredness. Another one is competition, where sometimes in a church we compete against each other, compete for attention, compete for power, instead of recognizing that we are one and we have one goal. All right. What are the barriers that keep us from loving and caring for other believers? Are there any other pointers for number two? Any other barriers that you think should be mentioned?
Yes, there's also the concern of, how do I put it? Creating a dependency on you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're helping somebody and then they seem to believe that you must be the answer all the time.
Oh,
So there is that
okay.
fear. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? What are barriers that keep us from loving and caring for other believers? All right, self-importance is another thing.
Okay.
All right, yes. All right. Number three, what would make it easy for you to share your needs, hurts, fears, and hopes with others? I have a long list for my answer. So I'm gonna see what answers you have come up with because I think this list it can potentially be endless. What would make it easy for you to share your needs, your hurts, your fears and hopes with others? So the church is a community and we want to cultivate community. But sometimes there are some things that prevent persons from really sharing their needs, hurts, and fears and hopes with others. What are some of these things that can prevent persons from sharing their needs, hurts, fears, and hopes with others?
A lack
Anybody
of
wish
a
this to
lack of
share?
confidentiality.
Yes,
You hear people
yes,
talking about what they heard somebody said about what was said, what we
yes,
call carrigo brinkum.
yeah,
Um,
yes,
there is a feel you do not want to feel vulnerable, so
yes,
you don't share because you don't
yes,
trust,
yes,
you
yes,
know.
yes,
And
yes,
sometimes you just body language of persons in the group and how
okay,
you feel about them would make no, I would never trust that person. I don't like how them look, I don't like how them talk. So I
okay,
yes.
okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. So, as we look at these barriers, we should try to ensure that we do not exhibit these behaviors that will cause persons to not want to share. All right. I saw, was it Jodian Carr you had your hand up? Was it Jodian? I
Yes,
believe.
I was saying
Yes.
that in addition to what Deacon Cullinan would have shared,
Yes.
sometimes it is also persons' personal challenges, how they
Yes.
view people, how they view life, sometimes
Okay.
based on past experiences or so forth, so persons are not open. Sometimes the
Okay.
self,
Yes.
other times, as Sis would have said, maybe trust, observe which deal with each other.
Right.
Um, and generally, can be if persons are really genuinely care about each other.
Yes.
Because
All
sometimes
right.
that we have persons wanting to know about what is happening with you, but they don't
Yes.
genuinely care.
Okay. Okay. So the genuine care. Right. Yes, I understand that. All right. Thanks for sharing. Right. So if we want to be if we want persons to trust us, we have to be trustworthy. All right. Still on number three. What would make it easy for you to share your needs, hurts, fears, and hopes with others?
A community that shows that they care,
Yes.
um, a space that I feel would really contribute to dealing with my situation.
Okay.
So if persons are really equipped to do so,
Yes.
um, a community that really shows the love of Christ.
Yes.
So that's it for me.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much for sharing. Great points. Okay. Also, I think people who are positive minded, that helps. So sometimes people don't want to share their hopes with somebody else because they fear they may not get that level of support. Persons may not have the faith, so they share a dream, a vision, an idea, and it gets squashed, right? So people who are genuine, people who are positive, those things can help. People who are approachable. So persons have certain needs and hurts, but are you approachable? Am I approachable? Do they feel comfortable approaching me about something? People who are kind and considerate, people who are knowledgeable. So persons may have certain issues, but they might feel like, somebody cannot help them because maybe they don't have the knowledge. And then we need to be caring about persons, not envious, not jealous, not competitive, but wanting to see others succeed. So if persons have certain needs and certain hopes, we can help to support it as opposed to trying to feel as if the person is afraid. All right, so we're on now to number four. What are the most common excuses that people give for not joining a church? And how could you answer them? This is a very important question. What are the most common excuses people give for not joining a church? And how could you answer them? All right, so we take it. First of all, what are the excuses? And then what are the answers? So for each excuse, we will look right away at the answers. All right, so the first one, and anybody has any idea what are the most common excuses that people give for not joining a church? Even if
I
you
give
have that, yes,
one experience I had.
yes,
A gentleman who I invited said he's not going to church. Church is full of hypocrites.
Hypocrites,
right,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't think my answer was the kindest because I said we'd always welcome another.
Yeah, that's a popular question. A popular excuse. The church is full of hypocrites. The answer now. What are some answers that we could give to them? All right, so there's this popular saying that Christians aren't perfect, just forgiven. So that is an answer for the whole issue of hypocrisy. Is there any other possible answer anybody is considering?
Well, I one of the answers I usually say, the church is a hospital for all kinds of illnesses, and
Yes,
that's an illness,
yes,
So
yes,
if
yes,
you
yes,
are ill with
yes,
hypocrisy, you need to come.
yes, yes,
Mm.
yes, yes. Thank you. All right. Another is to point to the fact that God is forgiving. And if we look at Psalm 103 and Psalm 51, it highlights how forgiving God is. All right. Any other reason people might have for not joining a church?
Some may say they don't have to go to church to serve God. Them stay at them
Yes,
yard, them pray and them read them Bible and them live good with people. So them
yes,
not have to go to church.
yes. Anybody do you or anybody else on this platform have any possible answers for that?
Well, I usually tell them that, if one one by yourself is weak, but if you come together with other people, you can be united, and so they
Yes,
they they strand, if you put one and two or three strands together, it's harder to be broken. So when you come, somebody,
yes,
will be there to try and encourage you to stay in
right,
the faith
right.
and that.
Yes. And
I also ask them if they believe the Bible is true, and they would
yeah,
normally say, well, yes. And then I tell them where in the Bible they can find where it says you must not forsake the assembling of yourselves together.
right. Yes, good. Okay, awesome. Yes. And we looked also at the power of fellowship in these sessions and the fact that having a fellowship helps to keep people in the faith. It helps to prevent people from backsliding. All right. Um, any other excuse persons may give for not attending church or joining a church?
And may say they don't live any life as yet. And church of all
Okay.
people.
Yes. Yes. Any possible solutions to that?
That's how we say to them. Remember, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and its
Yes.
righteousness, and all things will be added. And he
Yes.
keep us with a young man. I call
Yes.
upon you because you are strong. So when
Right.
you're old, remember you cannot serve the Lord when you're old. But when you are
Right.
young, you have strength and energy to serve him. So now is the time, day of salvation. Seek ye
Yes.
while he may be found, call upon him while he is near.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. And additionally, church can be fun. I mean, there is music, there is so much to be happy about. I remember when I got saved, I think that was probably the first year that Fun in the Sun came in Jamaica, and I was really so excited. I had so much fun, and I was saying, wow, you really can have so much fun in Christendom. Yes. All right. And then there is also the excuse some persons believe that they have to be perfect before coming to church. They have to clean themselves up. And for this, my answer is come just as you are. And also the thought of, I believe it was Sister Cunningham, the whole idea of the church being a hospital. So we're not perfect. All right. Any other thoughts, pointers on these topics before we move on? Okay, so we're gonna move on. Restoring
One
broken
other one
fellowship.
is that I don't have to go to church. I don't have to go to church to be a Christian, and I don't have to go to church to worship God. I can stay at my bedside, or I can
Right.
stay. And with the same answer that was given earlier, it's the answer
Yes.
I would say, you need to fellowship. Iron
Yes.
sharpeneth iron, and the countenance
Exactly.
of one lightens the other.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I would also use the analogy of the fireside with the wood and fire.
Yes.
If you pull
Yes.
yourself away, you will dry up and go out. But the more
Mm-hmm.
you kindle the fire with the firewood, you will
Yes.
keep ablaze. So don't stay away,
Yes.
especially those who say they're backsliders.
Right. Yes. Yes. All right. Thanks everybody for sharing. So we looked at cultivating the fellowship, cultivating community. So we'll see that there are three things we do tonight: cultivate, restore, and protect. We cultivate, having cultivated, we restore relationships. Having restored them, then we're gonna have to protect the church. So restoring broken fellowship, be a peacemaker. So if there is anything, any conflict within the church, our goal should be to be peacemakers. Now, there are 7 steps to restoring fellowship. First of all, talk to God before talking to the person. So that is very important. When we talk to God, God will give us an idea as to how to deal with the issue. He says use prayer to ventilate vertically. So we're not going to approach somebody when we're upset and then just vent at them. We're going to pray first and ventilate upwards to God. Talk to God instead of gossiping to somebody. So sometimes when somebody does us something bad, our first instinct is to go and complain to somebody else. But what we should really do is talk to God first. Many conflicts are rooted in unmet needs. We must remember that the only person who is perfect is God. The only person who can meet all our needs is God. When there is a broken fellowship, we should always take the initiative. We must be the first to restore the peace and we must act quickly. So if there is an issue between myself and somebody else, and I am sure that I am right, and I am sure that the person is wrong, I still should be the one who should take the initiative to restore the peace because I know better. When we seek to restore the peace, we should sympathize with the feelings of the person. So, listening, use our ears more than our mouth. We're told we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we must listen twice as much as we speak. We also need to be patient. We need to be calm. We need to be in control of ourselves. And we need to operate with wisdom. As we pause, we are being reminded of something very important. It is scrambled. I am going to ask you to unscramble it for us to discover what is this very important thing that we're being reminded about.
Restore.
Thank you so much. You are correct. Restore broken fellowship. Confess your part of the conflict. Admit your own mistakes. So we should do self-analysis. If there is anything that we did that contributed to the issue, we should admit that. We should attack the problem and not the person. So, how we say it is as important as what we say. We should not use harmful words, only helpful words. And remember, a gentle answer diffuses anger. We restore broken fellowship by cooperating as much as possible. We are reminded do everything on your part to live at peace with everybody. So it's not about who is right or who is wrong. It is about being the bigger person. For the sake of the fellowship, try to compromise, adjust to another person's preferences to what they need. So sometimes I might prefer blue and somebody else prefers green, but I am going to give up my blue and work with the green in order for there to be peace and unity within the fellowship. We restore broken fellowship by emphasizing reconciliation, coming back together, being one on the same page. Reconciliation focuses on relationship. So when we seek to reconcile with another person, we are maintaining the relationship. Reconciliation means to bury the hatchet. What happens when something is buried? Two things happen when something is buried. What happens when something is buried? It's a question. Can you give me the answer? What happens when something is buried?
Is hide, hidden. Cannot be
Hidden.
seen.
Yes, you cannot see it. Yes. Anything else? A second thing that happens.
Is forgotten.
It is forgotten. Yes, awesome. Something else happens as well. It's hidden. You can't see it. It's forgotten. Something else happened. It is dead. We
Oh,
bury dead things.
yeah.
So reconciliation means that something is dead. Yes, and so we're going to treat it as dead. A personal activity, this is something you do by yourself. Who do I need to restore a broken relationship with today? Is there someone that you need to restore a broken relationship with? Please write it down so that you can address it. Okay, so I trust that we've written down. If we had anyone to write down, we wrote it down. The second part of this thing now is scenarios. So we're gonna have some cases here. All right, so the first one, Brother X has not been passing over funds received for the church. He received these funds through fundraising programs at the church. He has been keeping the money for himself. How could you lovingly confront Brother X? So Brother X has not been passing over funds received for the church through fundraising. He has been keeping the money for himself. How could you lovingly confront him? Any ideas? Right, so I'm gonna jump start with yes,
I was going to say, first and foremost,
yes,
um, you seek the guidance from the Lord. Because
yes,
when we
good,
jump into something like that, we could create more havoc than lead
right,
to a solution. So we seek
yes,
the Lord's guidance as well as His timing.
yes, yes,
And confronting Him is not going to be easy,
yes,
but I think we try to find out what is happening in his life, why he felt
right,
that he needed to quote unquote borrow that money,
okay,
and talk him through to admitting that what he did was wrong
right,
and trying to find out how we'll want to make restitution.
okay, great. All right, thank you very much. It's not an easy project. It's not an easy thing to do. You've handled it well. Thank you, Sister Coy. All right. In addition to those pointers, we should also ensure that we have the right voice tone, that he is approached in a private manner. If necessary, we might need to provide evidence and highlight why the action was wrong. All right. Here's another situation now. Sister X has not been talking to Sister Y because Sister X does not like the way in which Sister Y spoke to her at a meeting a few months ago. How can this matter be handled? Sister X has not been talking to Sister Y because Sister X does not like the way in which Sister Y spoke to her at a meeting a few months ago. How can this matter be handled? I'll give you a minute to think about it and then you can share your ideas. Okay, any ideas, anybody? All right. Okay, Sister Koi.
Yeah, I'm just reminded of oh gosh, which letter now? Paul wrote to a church, and in almost ending it, he told them to help sisters so and so to stop, well, not speaking to each other, to
Okay.
resolve their problem and get back together. I'm just remembering that. But yes, playing the role of a peacemaker means not taking sides, but listening to each one and coming up with, I would have to say, a Bible inspired way of getting them to see that they're both not reflecting Jesus in the way they're behaving.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Is that it from you? Okay. Thank you. Any other pointers? Anybody? Whether you want to take it from the perspective of being a peacemaker or from the perspective of addressing how Sister X or Sister Y should behave.
But no, I would have both of them sit with me and each
Yes.
one telling me their story and have them listen to each other, because sometimes
Yes.
things are said and what is said is not what is heard
Okay.
because of
Right.
prior experiences, tone of voice, and all of that.
Right.
So when they listen to each other, I'd ask how they feel about what they hear.
Yes.
And do you really believe that this was meant to be so? Did you intend this for it to be received in that manner? So that
Yes.
they both hear and they both put feelings into it. And then,
Yes.
bring the word of God to say,
Yes.
if it is at all possible,
Yes.
live peaceable with all men. So
Both.
if you did not like what she said, you
Yes.
should have said to her, I did not like what you said because it made me
Exactly.
feel this way,
Right.
so that she can know that it's a feeling. She can't say you didn't feel that way.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
so deal
Yes.
with it at a feeling level, and
Mm-hmm.
then and help them to empathize with each other and forgive.
Yes.
The bigger person will take the highest stand.
Right. Yes. Okay. Thanks, Sister Cunningham. All right. So just looking at it also from the perspective of both of the individuals, both ladies had a part to play in the situation. Sister X was keeping malice, basically. I mean, this has been going on for months, and she hasn't been speaking to her for months. Um, you know, so Sister X could also confront Sister Y in a calm manner and express how she was feeling. Sister Y, on the other hand, also can look into herself and consider how she communicates, and if at all, persons might be offended by her communication style, then she needs to change. She must watch her voice tone, the volume, as well as her words to ensure that other people do not become offended by her behavior, and therefore this unity continues in the fellowship. Protecting your church is our next and final topic. Unity is the soul of fellowship. Focus on what we have in common, not our differences. Romans 14:19, which was quoted at the beginning of this session. Let us concentrate on the things which make for harmony and for the growth of our fellowship. As believers, we share one Lord, one body, one purpose, one hope, and one Father. So we are one. It's one goal. It's one Lord, one body, one purpose, purpose of evangelism, the purpose of Jesus, one hope, the hope of getting to heaven. So we have too much oneness. We have one Father, the same Father. There is too much oneness for us to now be divided. And so these are the issues, not personal differences, that we should concentrate on. Our similarities is what we should concentrate on. We should recognize that every fellowship is made up of different people. We're not all the same. So every fellowship is made up of persons with different personalities. Can you imagine if the fellowship just had one set of personalities? It couldn't function. You need persons with different personalities to work in the church. You have some people who are quiet and they like to quietly work behind the scenes and organize things. And then you have some persons who might be evangelists and more outgoing ushers, outgoing preachers. But these outgoing people are needing the people who work quietly behind the scene, or else they cannot function. And so we come with different colors, different personalities, and we have to recognize and accept that people come from different backgrounds, and their personalities are sometimes affected by their backgrounds. So some people might be a little bit more louder, a little bit more aggressive, and we shouldn't be offended by that because it can be just a matter of their background. We have different races, we have different shades. We have a lot of persons in Jamaica who are Afrocentric, but we have different shades. We have different preferences. And so, in order for us to be as one, we just remember that we have different, we're born different. And there are some aspects of people's personalities that we can try to work on. And there are some things about some persons that will never change because it is just who God created them to be uniquely that way. So we should value and enjoy the differences of persons, right? Benefit from the differences of persons. Conflict is a sign that the focus has changed to less important things. So it means conflict is a sign that we have shifted the focus from us being one body and having one purpose and one hope to other trivial things that are not important. How do we be realist? How do we protect our church, therefore, by being realistic and recognizing that there is no perfect church? So we're encouraged to encourage rather than to criticize, compare, or judge. We should refuse to listen to gossip. In fact, when someone is gossiping, we should stop them. And we should also remember that the very person who is gossiping about somebody else will also gossip about us. We protect our church by supporting our leaders, and I'm going to go further to say our workers as well. If we don't have workers, our church is going to be torn down. If we don't have leaders, our church cannot exist. So we must support our leaders and our workers. Leaders need our encouragement, appreciation, love, and prayers. How can we express appreciation to our leaders or even our workers? People who work in different ministries, maybe they don't necessarily lead a ministry, but they work hard. How can we express appreciation to them? All right, so we can express appreciation to them by thanking them. We can highlight things that they have done that are positive, give them compliments. All right. We should also pray for leaders and workers. Remember, it is my responsibility to protect the unity of my church. So I'm going to ask if there are any leaders on this platform, what are some things that you would like people to pray for you about as it relates to leadership? If there are persons who work in different ministries, what are some things that you would like persons to pray for you about as it relates to your work in the ministry? Leaders on this platform, what would you like people to pray for you about? Workers, what would you like for people to pray for you about? Taking prayer requests now.
I'd like leaders, I'd like to ask persons to pray for physical strength,
Okay,
wisdom, and wisdom from God.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Other prayer requests? Prayer requests from leaders and workers. What are things that you need people to pray for you about?
For
For
patience.
discernment in
Okay,
interacting with the people with whom we work or
yes.
whom we lead.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes. Pray for patience
Yes,
and wisdom
yes.
to work
O-
with the people with whom I have to work.
Okay,
And as Sister Ratri asked too, that was one of the things I'd asked for strength, health.
okay,
The body is
okay,
sick, it
okay,
can't work. Mhm.
okay. Awesome. Thank you. Leaders, workers, what would you like for people to pray for you about? All right. So physical strength, wisdom, discernment, and patience. Thank you for your feedback. A personal activity that you're going to work on in your private time. What am I personally doing to protect unity in my church family? Another personal activity. Is there someone I need to restore a relationship with that I could ask my church members to pray for me about? I leave that on the screen for a moment so that if anybody wants to write it down so that you can remember to address it in your personal time. All right. And so our final question for tonight, what could our group do to protect and promote unity in our church? So you want there to be unity in your church? What can you do to ensure that there is unity in your church? What can you do to ensure that there is unity in your church? What could our group do to protect and promote unity in our church? I'll give you a moment to think about it and then we can share. Okay, Sister Cunningham, I'm seeing your mic is off. Is it that you are giving us an answer?
No, I was writing it down.
Oh,
I didn't realize
oh.
my mic was open.
Okay. All right. So we can share our answers now. What could our group to do to protect and promote unity in our church? Any ideas, anybody?
Come back to the whole matter of being an encourager
Yes,
rather than a critic or a
yes.
bystander,
Mhm.
an
Awesome.
active encourager. Also, to
Yes.
combat gossip at all levels.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you. Anybody else? What could our group do to protect and promote unity in our church? One of the things that can be done is to cooperate, so whenever there are initiatives or things like that, we can cooperate, work together, support things so that we can be on the same page. All right?
Yeah, another thing, we should let our words be our bond. So
Yes.
honesty and openness among
Okay.
brethren, and encourage
Yes.
that, and
Okay.
and encourage forgiveness.
Yes. Awesome. All right. Any other pointers? All right, so I have this other point, establishing rules. For example, no malice keeping.
Mhm.
Um, so like no case of Sister X and Sister Y that we saw in the scenario earlier, stemming things from they start from early. Any other pointers? What can we do? What can our group do to protect and promote unity in our church?
Speaking the truth in love.
Yes, yes. All right. Any other pointers? All right. I also have some team building activities that can be used. For example, a lot of unity and bond can be created from various activities, such as having fun days, overnight activities, dinners, trips together, games night, barbecues where people cook together and enjoy good food together, concerts, having celebrations, holiday celebrations, having drama productions where people have to work together towards a common goal and then seeing everything come out and be a success. Going to events, various concerts as a group, things like that can help to build the unity in your church. Are there any other ideas? All right, so that closes us out for tonight. Does anybody have any comments before we close out? Okay. Well, we're closing out. All honor to the Most High God who implores us to cultivate community, restore broken fellowship, and protect our church. All right. So we're going to close in prayer. Before we close in prayer, does anybody have any comments, questions? All right, let us close. Thank you, Lord, for this wonderful night, for having kept up our system technologically light, everything, so that this night session could take place. Thank you, God, for the ideas which came through to us. And Father, change us, transform us through these sessions, these purpose-driven sessions. Be with us throughout the rest of the night. Cover, protect, strengthen, and sustain Mamby Park Baptist Church and friends. In Jesus' name, amen. Have a wonderful
Amen.
night, everybody.
Thank you, Sister
You
Gillian.
also.
God bless
Thank
you.
you, Sister
God be with
Jiman. Good
you.
night, everyone.
Yes.
Good
You
A
night.
blessed night,
Bless you all.
everyone.
Mhm.
bless.